and welcome to episode 34 of Empathic Action. Today I'm joined by my friend Paul Simard, who works for UNHCR. Paul, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing and what UNHCR does?
Sure. First of all, thanks so much for having me, Anita. It's a real pleasure. So I am responsible for community and impact partnerships here in Canada for UNHCR. We are the UN Refugee Agency. And we have a much longer name, the High Commission for Refugees, which is where the HCR comes in. But we are responsible basically for supporting people who have been displaced, forcibly displaced, typically for as a result of political strife or war or economic situations, but have been forced to leave their homes. And this is primarily once they have to actually cross a border. But more and more, we are also seeing a lot of internally displaced persons who are identified as persons of concern to the UNHCR. We're actually celebrating our 50-year anniversary this year. And unfortunately, we're not celebrating it with this massive improvement in the refugee situation. We have over 70 million displaced persons around the world. And it includes everyone from children to adults and grandparents, of course. And we only expect that number to, in fact, increase because we're seeing new reasons for displacement coming in, not least of which will be climate change, which up until now has not been a separate category within the UNHCR, but we also recognize that that is going to have to change. And so my role here is to work with partners, with foundations, and with individuals in order to provide more support for refugees internationally. We need to understand that most refugees, when they get to Canada or even the US and other countries, this was not done by choice. They didn't leave their home to say, I'm going to go to Canada, right? They have often been displaced 2 or 3 times before arriving. And so the more support that we can give refugees closer to home, the more stability we're able to offer them, the greater we are able to reintegrate them into a higher quality of living. They can support their children with schools and with proper health care and all of these things that are so important to us that we kind of take for granted by being at home. And so we are really working hard to get more Canadians to come and support refugees so that we can keep people closer to their homes and help them to get reintegrated and have a stable life soon.
There's no question that work is so important. And I think Canadians did a really good job to help during the Syrian refugee crisis. Mm-hmm. Now you are hit with COVID. And can you talk a little bit about how the pandemic is impacting refugees globally?
Sure. I mean, so far we've been fortunate to date because the pandemic hasn't hit the camps in significant ways yet. That doesn't mean it's not there, and that doesn't mean it's not coming. In fact, we know it's going to come. And so there's a lot of readiness that is happening right now, a lot of prepare work that is going on. We have seen the crisis decimate economies here in Canada and the US, and people are losing their lives in the hundreds and thousands of people. And yet we are supported by some of the best medical infrastructure that the world has to offer. And yet the costs are high. When these get into refugee camps, when they hit communities where people are already vulnerable, it's going to be much worse. The ability to control the virus, to provide the people with the ventilators that we hear so much about that are so critical, is going to be almost impossible to respond to the needs. On top of that, this idea of physical distancing, social distancing, term I don't particularly like, but we'll stick with physical, is really a luxury that I don't think we understand fully, right? When you are in a camp that is no bigger than a couple of square miles and you are tens of thousands of people, the opportunity to be 2 meters apart from each other, even if you're staying as a family, is almost impossible. And so these communities are very tightly packed, and the measures that we are using here are not going to be, never mind effective, but they might not even be possible in most of these refugee camps. So it's going to be a massive challenge. And we're doing our best to prepare, but here again, we're going to need the support of people around the world to do that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with us. Now, anybody who's watching who wants to help, I think I'm going to include the office address for anybody who's inspired to write a little note, maybe get some children involved in writing some thank you notes to people who are working on the front lines of this refugee effort, but also people can help with a donation. So please tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit old school to say that the best way that people can support us is with financial support. But the fact of the matter is that it is. The UNHCR is lucky in the sense that because we receive so much government support for administrative things, when somebody makes a donation to us, most of it, 86 cents on the dollar, which for an international cause is extremely high, goes directly to the people who need it most. And so we have a COVID-19 campaign that is going on right now. People can actually target their money for this campaign, and that will help us to not only prepare and have more support ready when the crisis hits, but also to make sure that we can do so over a long period of time, because as we're seeing here, it's not 2 weeks and it goes away.
Thanks so much for joining us, Paul. Really great to have you. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.